Leo, welcome to the end of season 5, and we know it's the end of season 5 because Leo's wearing shorts in the office. It's time to head into real estate busy season. It's time to take some of these projects we've been working on fall, winter, spring, and kind of shelve them for a little bit while we do our main gig. So it's kind of fun at the end of season 5, 40 episodes, to kind of look back on the season and look back on 5 years of doing this podcast and 5 years of growing as a host, as a producer, and as a platform here in the city of Bellingham.
I want to clarify one thing. When I'm wearing shorts, it's like a pre-Groundhog Day because I'm like trying to will the weather to change. Yeah. I'm ready. The sun's coming, but it's still cold.
We are manifesting spring.
Well,
which is why I'm dressed
I'm doing a lot of the work. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of the work here. I'm doing the heavy lifting. Yeah, 40 episodes. Crazy to think that this is something that we dreamt up, between Cooper and I, and then you and I came together with our skill set where he took over all of the content creation, the man behind the camera, and then you took over in your absolutely natural role, which is a producer. And then I got to sit here and say a few things, and you did like a lot of the heavy lifting of making these episodes beautiful. So I'm going to throw it back at you there. But 40 episodes feels like it flew by. Yes. And not to be cheesy, but it does feel like, when you're having fun and you're enjoying the process of sharing people's stories who are actually interesting, that this doesn't feel like work.
And it's a neat offset to the regular daily work of real estate. It's neat kind of having this almost this hobby at our job, which is, I think, a really cool thing and a really neat part of being in a small business in Bellingham and working in an entrepreneurial type space that you've created for this team.
It's been fun also picking guests, and people ask a lot, hey, I think I've got a great guest for you. And sometimes they're right.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I don't know what it is. They're just not right.
Yeah.
And so I love keeping this element of this non-monetized community podcast where we get to choose who's on here. There's no pressure for us to conform to ad spend and producing X amount of views. It's just we love the people that listen to the show, and we're getting to know them better.
Yeah, all 6 of them.
All 6 of them. Zach.
Samir. Shout out to Matt.
Yep. And
Karen, of course.
And my mom.
So the goal for next season, of course, is to move from 6 listeners to maybe 10. Think we can do it?
Yeah, maybe 10.
Yeah.
No, but let's talk real numbers, though.
Let's talk real numbers.
Where are we at as far as how many people have listened to this show since the beginning?
Since the very beginning. So, in season 5, we crossed the 13,000 downloads threshold. So right about now, we're at 13,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What does that mean for a download? Does that mean that somebody either subscribed to it and gets them automatically and listens to them, or they went and listened to partial or full episode?
It means someone listened to partial or full episodes. Yep. Well, across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, all of that. So
pretty cool. Yeah. We're number 2 in the world. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't want to be.
No. We've talked about this every season, and we've only done one of these in the past, which I think it was after the pivot, or the season 2.
Yep.
That you and I sat down and did this. But now we're in end of season 5. Mm-hmm. What were some of your favorite parts of this season? I mean, I feel like we're constantly learning, but even when you're behind the camera and keeping things moving, and that's just kind of part of your job. Mm-hmm. And I'm here in the seat asking questions, I don't really get a chance to fully understand what we talked about until I listen to it again. And you listen to it in post-editing.
Right.
What are some of your favorite parts of the season? Like, what were some big parts for you?
One of the magic components of this show is, for Cooper and I, we're the 2 people that have a really unique experience of this show. Obviously, yours and the guest experience is the most unique because you're the ones having the conversation. But Cooper and I are the only ones that get to listen to it live. And then we get to have a hand in editing it and presenting it to the world. So the final version that everyone else gets to hear is slightly different than what we heard in real time in real life. And it also means we get a certain amount of warmth, sometimes literal, because this room really heats up.
It does. And it gets cold too.
Right? A certain amount of warmth, a certain amount of humor, some maybe behind the scenes, laughter or side comments that might happen that get edited in post. We get to be part of that. And I think that's one of the most special parts of being the producer and the editor of this show, is that the sort of intimate environment of this very small studio and 4 people in here for an hour and a half talking about business and life and entrepreneurship. There's just a lot of fun that happens in the studio. We don't take this show super seriously, as you know. Like, we try to do a great job with it. We don't take ourselves very seriously. And that's the case whether you're in person with us anytime or we're doing a project. We try to do a great job. we have a lot of fun along the way. And then also being able to collaborate and partner with some really great businesses here in town and really get to know the stories behind the people who created them. As cliche as that sounds, because we've been doing it for 5 years.
You've said that a couple times.
A few times, yeah. It's almost like it's scripted or something. But these people have some really neat stories, and the stories vary from human to human, and some I find maybe more personally exciting than others. So sometimes I'm sitting cross-legged right over there, which is weird because now I'm sitting in the guest chair.
That's right.
Sit cross-legged on the carpet, which is where I like to sit. And I'm just sitting there going, I'm hearing this really cool story from this really cool person at a business I've known of for 10 years. And now I get to hear about it from the person who made it happen. And that's really neat.
And also it turns into, through our other events and our other platforms, like Live Bellingham Now, it turns into these great relationships because we've spent this time in the studio where we can then go, hey, this person would be awesome if they're willing to be a part of this event, because events and community gatherings are a big part of our, and charity are a big part of our company philosophy. Right. And so it's been so much fun to be able to go, hey, look, you're a perfect fit for this. Come on, get over here and do this thing with us. And so I love that element of it too, how the relationship doesn't feel like it stops there. It doesn't feel like it's a in the door, out the door thing. It's a in the door, and then we build a relationship. And hopefully that comes from them feeling comfortable to vulnerably talk about their life and their process and their story, but then it turns into these relationships. They're really cool. Yeah,
and that's one of the things that I think is really cool for me to see. Again, I'm the admin brain around here, right? You're an incredible connector. You're an incredible person-to-person connector. And so over the course of the last 5 years, I've gotten to see Leo develop. He didn't know I was going to say this. Leo developed as a host and as an interviewer, from the first few episodes where you're still kind of getting your feet under you and how this is all going to work.
Fed potential questions.
Right, exactly. What's happening here?
I'm just shut the laptop. We're going off script here. No.
Versus now, we know you're going to be off script, but you're way better off script than you used to be 2 or 3 years ago. And so, seeing how Leo adapts his questions and his follow-up questions to the specific guests, and how you are genuinely curious and interested. And that is, I think, one of the most magical pieces of this show that people don't realize is you're intensely curious and you're so interested in what each person's story is and what they have to tell. And then you ask follow-up questions about the things that you find curious. And so that is what's going to make the stories that come out on this show different than maybe the standard answers someone might have in a general interview, even though they're going to have some of the same stories. You're then going to drill down on the pieces you find interesting, and because the show is hosted by you and you're the interviewer, it now goes a different direction than maybe a different show would. And so I love seeing that develop over time, your style as an interviewer, but also seeing guests light up when they realize they're talking with someone who genuinely wants to know.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it feels like things have gotten smoother. In the first few seasons, we felt like there was, we didn't know who was listening to it. Mm-hmm. We still don't know everybody that's listening to
no,
it.
We don't.
But we know more and more. We've been getting more and more positive feedback, which gives us the energy and the fuel to be like, oh, okay, this is actually growing and evolving. Mm-hmm. Not just we're getting better, or the guests are getting better, or the whatever the thing is, or the production is getting better.
More or less.
More or less.
Which we'll get into.
We'll get into that. That's a whole funny behind the scenes thing that you all want to hear, because it's not all perfect here. Contrary to popular belief about Tiffany.
Right.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of going back into that, the first couple seasons, gaining that momentum, and now starting to see people reaching out to us or people going, oh, I've heard of it. Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to come in. I'd love to come in for an interview versus who?
Right.
What?
Or like that email I sent out a while back for a personal life project, and in my signature line, even in my personal email, I have the Building Bellingham Instagram, and someone responded back and goes, wait, you're associated with that show? I love that show. Whoa. Didn't know any of the real estate side of me, didn't know me as producer Building Bellingham, but then saw a personal email. It's like, oh, you're that Tiffany. I love those connections so much.
And that's what we do this for. And I also love the fact that at the start we feel like we had a lot to prove, which we did. Yep. And now it's not that I don't still feel like there's a lot to prove, because that's just how we are. We want to keep evolving, whether we get the outside pressure or not. And there's no outside pressure.
None.
It's the best part about this is that we want to keep making this better and better because of the feedback we get from listeners, but also because I feel less and less of a pressure for this to be this. Mm-hmm. Not that it's not professional, but for it to be this thing, it doesn't need to be this thing. It can be exactly how I want it to be. And now because of the quality content and the quality guests that have been on the show, me getting better at interviewing and you getting better and better at the editing process and the producing process. We had this moment where we're like, hey, this next season, let's do a couple of couches.
Yes.
Let's talk about whiskey. Let's maybe have some whiskey on the show. And was one of my favorite pivot points in the show so far, was realizing that we don't need to take ourselves that seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Leo, should we talk about technology? Since I just got up to, triple check the camera.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I would say from a checklist, like a pre-flight checklist.
Yeah.
You and Cooper are incredibly on top of making sure that all the cameras have extra batteries, the mics are on, the things are recording, but still things can go wrong.
Absolutely.
So we had this awesome interview with Chaz Cubis, who's one of the owners of Black Sheep and also Goat Mountain, and went really well.
Super well.
Everything was functioning.
Yep. All the indicators were there. Yeah. Great question. What did happen? So let me back up for a second. So when we started doing this show, we had the live stream season with Zoom. That had all of its own technical stuff, which we talked about the last time we did one of these episodes. And then for the last 23 episodes, we've had more or less the exact same setup. We use XLR cables, we use Shure mics, we use a Scarlett mixer, we use software that's on my computer, kind of links it all together. And then in the third season, we added a third camera. So we used to roll with one camera. Now we're up to 3, you guys. 3 cameras, 2 mics, 1 host. It's a great time. So we've had some issues with the cameras off and on over the season, but when you have 3, if you have an issue with one camera, that's totally fine. You've got 2 other streams going, and even if you only have 10 minutes of footage from one camera, at least you can splice it in for some variety. But with the audio, of course, it's one set of mics, it's 2 mics, and at some point in the recording, even though all the pre-flight had looked good, all the testing looked good, and all my indicators were solid as to where the audio was coming from, at some point, somehow, episode 8, season 5, season finale, recorded using my MacBook laptop mic instead of our high quality, podcasting mics. And so I kid you not, you guys, this footage, the audio, like you could hear me kind of breathing in the background because I'm sitting at my laptop, right? I'm sitting right over there, and you guys are talking over here. And, I listened to it. Cooper listened to it. We didn't realize it had done that until the next day when we were reviewing the footage. Because like I said, all the indicators were there. Everything was textbook. Back to the drawing board and, reaching out to the guests and saying, hey, this happened. It might be salvageable. It might not. We'll keep you posted. And thankfully, he's been very gracious. And we're looking to record this. And by the time this episode comes out, that one will have happened. So it's one of those moments, though, where as a producer, I look at this and I go, I take a lot of pride in, and Cooper and I together take a lot of pride in making this a pretty streamlined experience for guests. They're giving their time, they're telling their story, they're coming to our studio. I want it to go well and go smoothly. And yet, after doing the same setup 23 times, this one didn't go smoothly. And it reminded me of when the battery died on the camera for one of our episode 4 or season 4 guests, either season 3 or season 4, Brianna Wyden at Wyden Farms. And we had to switch out the cameras and restart halfway through the episode. And so it's just very humbling in a good way, I think, to remember that we're not perfect. And even though I know how to set up these cameras and Cooper is incredible at editing videos, we still screw up every once in a while. And sometimes we don't even know how we did it, like in this case, and keeps us pretty grounded.
It also reminds you that not everything is in your control. Like you can be the best of the best. Seriously.
Yeah.
And something can still go wrong. Yep. Well, Murphy's Law, anything that can't happen will happen.
Or not even something out of my control, but something completely out of my area of competence. Like it's a mystery of what went wrong, and yet it's something that shouldn't be a mystery. And so realizing that when some things don't follow the textbook pattern, now my knowledge needs to grow to encompass some of those possibilities to understand what happens, what could go wrong, and how to mitigate it moving forward for season 6. Yeah. So that we have audio for season 6.
Wait, we're doing another season?
I mean, we'll see. Have we been canceled?
We have not been canceled. I can't believe you said that. Wow. Well, you did that. Well, you did that out of spite for me saying
Just a little bit of spite.
I probably said that 40 times. Every single episode.
Almost every episode.
Yeah.
And I have edited it out of most of the audio cuts.
So if you're listening to this, just know that they're censoring me. So, season 6.
Season 6.
We've talked a little bit about this season. Really having one little blip the whole season is a huge win.
Yeah.
And one little blip in 40 episodes. We had some sweaty moments where, like, live streaming during season 2, 2 or 3 blips in 40 episodes. And that's not even including the Pivot series.
Right.
Like 80 recordings.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Feels good.
And I'm pretty grateful because just know that I will do everything I can to help, but I don't necessarily. I'm not as tech savvy as I look. Just like I'm not as smart as I look. Everyone thinks I'm smart, and then they get to know me, and it's just a disappointment. But big caveman.
Not true. Clarity. No.
Smart at some things. Season 6. So
Season 6.
We've made this a point to say we're going to do 8 episodes.
Yes.
Every season, and part of that's for sanity purposes, because it's not our full-time job.
Right.
It's not even our part-time job.
Right.
It is a passion project that we are committed to continue doing, selfishly because we love doing it, but also because the content that we feel like we are able to share with people is, I think, really good.
Yes.
Specifically to Bellingham and Whatcom County. We have another 8 episodes starting in September, and we're not going to announce the guests yet.
Nope.
They're all confirmed, to be honest.
Have we asked any?
Good for us. High five. The cool part is that there's more and more businesses popping up that are becoming successful, and there's more that have seasoned and more that we haven't talked to that are...
We will not run out.
We will not run out. So for those of you that listen to this, we will not run out. If we were doing 52 episodes a season,
can you imagine?
We would have like 3 seasons, and I don't know what we'd be doing.
I'd survive about a month, and then I'd be like, hi, we will change this. This is showing to change, and then we'd be back to what our current cadence is.
What are some of your favorite takeaways? What were some of your favorite episodes? This
season, everyone had some really awesome stories. And I think a couple of the things that stood out to me from the latter half of this season were the award-winning folks. So you got Funkies, you got Doc Swinson's. What I loved about those 2 episodes in particular is Matt and Jesse show such an incredible passion for their craft. There's sort of this artisanal energy in the room. It isn't just, if you will, the like, I built a business and the numbers are great. As important as that is, and that's the type of stuff we want to dig into. But you see the heart of an artist and the heart of a creator behind their work, as well as Clarito's work and the film that he's working on, and how he's pivoted his company from a marketing agency to a film creation space. And you see that heart of an artist in all 3 of those specifically that jumped out at me in that regard. I have to say, Andy and Charmaine, the energy that those ladies brought to this show, they both have a gift for storytelling in their episodes that I found just so magnetic and captivating. Those were 2 that were a heck of a lot of fun to edit and to put together. And then the first 2 episodes of the season, Banter and Lost Giants, so Brad and Emil, you had 2 different guys both in the food and drink space, and it was neat having those back to back and just seeing their different pathways and journeys to how they got to where they are right now, and yet the impact that each of them are making on the Bellingham food and drink scene right now. So I guess that sort of says all of them, but for different reasons and different dynamics. And that's what I loved. One reason I love this show is you're not going to like every episode. I don't have a favorite for every episode, or not every episode's my favorite, either to edit or to listen to, and that's okay. But there's something that kind of sticks out from each one that is a highlight that then when I look back over the season, I go, that was cool, that was cool, that was cool.
And there's a common theme to it, which is that it's a range of education, it's a range of whether they're a master of a specific craft, it's a range of no experience, there's lots of experience, age, and it just goes to show that they have these common themes in place, which are that they're willing to take risk. They're willing to be flexible and adaptable for the most part. And they're willing to just go for it in the sense that maybe no one else is doing what they're doing. They're not really worried about needing to have other people doing exactly what they're doing. Or if there are, they know that they're like whatever they're doing is just different. And they're okay if it has similarities, but there's going to just have their niche, their fans. And so I love that because people that kind of operate in this mass of like, I have to be doing what other people are doing. Sometimes it's good to do what other people are doing, but a lot of the times we get the weight of the world put on us, right? We're up until like, what's it, 7 years old or 8 years old, where we're creative, we have a lot of imagination. We're not worried about what other people think about us. And then all of a sudden, cold hard life hits you, and you got taxes and death and gravity. We hit this point, then we find ourselves again. And whether it's like, hey, I'm working at a desk job and I just got sick of it, or, I think of Matt Meany's project management thing where he was really good at it. And he was really handy when it came to like being a handyman. But he was just like, I don't know what it is. I just don't have the gusto for this. A lot of people will just say, that's great. I'm going to keep doing this for the rest of my life. Nothing wrong with that. But I think that person probably has skills or talents or a passion for something that if they just applied themselves to it, it's a little bit of a free fall on the other side. But then, you listen to his story, next thing you know, he's on Hot Ones now, one of the biggest hot sauce shows. He's won all these awards, and he's just doing what he loves to do, figuring out how to run a business from start to finish, and understanding that he still doesn't fully know what he's doing. None of us do, but he really has a good grasp on it. So I love that rediscovery of passion, kind of becoming a kid again in a sense, Tiff, as the producer, what are you most excited for going forward in this partnership?
My answer is not going to sound as exciting as it probably should, because again, we have entrepreneurial type, administrative type, right? And so as boring as it sounds, it's exciting to keep doing the same thing sometimes. Yep. Season 6 isn't going to turn Building Bellingham up over on its head. Season 7 won't do that either. We'll keep making adjustments and nudges, but it's really gratifying to feel like we've created something solid, stable, and consistent, and then to know that we're going to keep making something solid, stable, and consistent, where it's different stories, same themes.
Yep.
Potentially different mics, same sound quality, that kind of thing. And truly, that's exciting to me. That makes me happy.
Well, I know this will come as a shock to you on the entrepreneurial side, but I am excited for the same thing. I want to keep growing this audience, being able to share these stories with more and more people. And really, it's cool if someone from out of the area hears it, but it's more for people that are, maybe looking to move here, like Zach is an example, who found us through Building Bellingham. Also, most importantly, the people that live here.
Yes.
We don't need to be the biggest audience. We don't even need to be the number 1 podcast in Whatcom County.
What?
I think we're number 2.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I'm hearing too.
Inklings. We're coming after you.
Yeah, you know who you are. I think more exciting to me is like, how can we just hit like all of the people that are interested in this thing?
Yep.
And do it really well.
Really well.
And then just keep doing it. Huge thank you to all of you, the listeners that listened to this season, gave us feedback, reached out to us with whatever your favorite episode was. And we're just going to keep having fun with it. So we appreciate all of your support, whoever all of you are. But we appreciate you because this comes from the heart.
It does. And that was season 5. And here we go for season 6.
Giddy up.